Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing and digital agency.
We're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview the top business leaders in the industry.
Helping provide us with business empowerment is Phil Russertt. Now, Phil is an artist agent at Legendary Illustrations. He's also the founder of the Suffolk Comic and Art Expo and Creator Con, and he's the creator of an independent comic sensation, Tragedy. Phil, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me on, both of you. I appreciate it.
Well, we're psyched to have you here. So before we get into some specifics, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Father of two young children, married to an amazing wife who supports all my craziness, and lover of art, which really led to the journey ahead. I work daytime as a registered nurse, and nighttime I'm doing my best to be a big part of the comic industry.
And when do you sleep?
Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I don't like maybe 3 hours a night I get, and it's been like that for like 4 years.
Wow.
I'm very motivated, very motivated.
How did you get your start in this amazing field that you have going on?
Well, I mean, I've been a comic book collector since like 7 or 9 years old. The first issue I picked up was Uncanny X-Men 115 with Sauron on the cover. And to see all those characters is just amazing to me. So I've been reading comics for decades, and I started collecting original art, and I got to know artists a lot through that. And I, became friendly with a lot of big time artists. And my local comic shop, I decided, I wanted to help out. So I said, why don't we get a small like VFW? He would be the sponsor in the local store there. And I would get a bunch of people I know that are big time artists to come in and be an artist alley and do like a small little show just to help promote his business. Long story short, it wound up becoming something so much bigger. And it wound up becoming actually a full-blown convention, Suffolk Comic and Art Expo, that I ran, and it was very successful. For a first-time show, you're lucky if you get like 300 people. We had over 600 people show up for the one-day show. We had some great guests there, like Joe Rubenstein and Rags Morales and Scott Hanna and Sean Chen and other big names, and everybody loved it. And 6 months later, I did another one. We went to 2,000 people at Stony Brook. I had Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair and Mark Bagley and a lot of big names, and that was very successful. 6 months later, I had another show, because they're all one days, and it was Adam Kubert and Jim Sterenko and a lot of people there. And it just started building momentum, and people loved the show because it was geared towards comic books and art, unlike a lot of pop culture shows now, which nothing against them, but I don't do celebrities like from TV shows or pop culture stuff. I do pretty much comic books and the creators of those books. And unfortunately, with everything recently, we've been on a little hiatus. I'm picking up again with the Legendary Art Show on August 28th.
That's awesome news. We'll be glad to see you come back. Definitely the convention scene has been sorely missed. The virtual events help keep it alive, but can't wait for that in person.
Yeah, I think you lose a lot of energy virtually, and it's not offering anything new. You could always watch and interact with an artist drawing on their live streams or buy things on the internet. So to me, that's always been there. The virtual thing, unless you're getting a one-on-one with some sort of celebrity, it just feels like what we've always had. Nothing against them, but nothing beats the energy of a live convention.
That being said, you do have a lot of really cool live sessions with artists. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When we were on the hiatus due to everything going on currently, I don't like to sit still. Drives my wife crazy. So I said, you know what, I know all these big time artists, and I'm friendly with them, and I'm sure they would come on. I put up a post saying, would anybody want to do it? I figured I'd get a few people, but I got a couple hundred people saying they'd be on. And it was great. At first, a lot of indie guys told me they didn't ask to be on because they were intimidated because I got so many, well-established names in the industry. They were like, what can I bring to the table? I was like, what are you talking about? Of course you could bring something to the table. You're a creator. So I do a nice mix mix of independent creators that are promoting their Kickstarters and things like that, and more mainstream household names like Eric Larson and Kevin Eastman. And so it's a nice blend of both, because I love the whole community.
What do you think is like the most common misconception about the comic book industry and what you do in that world entirely?
I think a big misconception is that as much as we love comics and as much as it's fun and it was our childhood, there is still the business aspect. And I think a lot of people in the industry aren't really well versed in that side of it. Creating a comic book alone is a daunting task, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's professionalism that you have to have, that which includes correspondence, which includes meeting deadlines, which includes a lot of money transactions because you're paying people. So I think the misconception with some people is that it's just fun and games. It is business, but it's business that you love to do. You have a passion for.
And so I know my dear co-host is just waiting to jump in here to talk to us a little bit about some of the conferences and Comic-Con and all this stuff. So I'm going to let him live his best life right now and take it away.
There's got to be some crazy story. Anything you could share with us about some of the talented artists and writers that you've worked with?
I don't want to call anybody out. So I would... As far as like working with artists, some unfortunately, again, they don't have a business approach, so they're a little behind on deadlines and things like that, and you kind of have to deal with that. Some are very professional, on the nose, let's get it done. Steph Wilson is a perfect example of someone who understands the work that goes into it, and he is well before the deadline with his work. He always just gets it done. But for the most part, everybody's a great person to work with. It's just you do deal with different egos or different sensitivities or people that are maybe a little flakier than others and things like that. As far as a crazy story, I had a bunch of jam pieces along with my friends in a backpack, and we were at New York Comic-Con. And as you know, that gets like 220,000 people at that show. Due to a miscommunication, my wife didn't know that I left the backpack with her, and we left the scene where the backpack was. It was left on the floor, and I'm going to tell you, it was $15,000 of art. So I'm in Artist Alley, and I'm talking to Buzz, the artist Buzz, and I'm like, I want to get something done. So I call my wife, and she's like, what do you mean? I don't have the bag. So at the time, I was a 260-pound man, but I moved like a backpack ninja running. And a lot of big artists were like, Phil, texting me, is everything okay? I saw you running like in a panic. And I go up, and the bag is gone. I mean, there's 220,000 people there. So I go to security. The odd thing is, because of the climate at the time, this was years ago, someone was afraid that it was a bomb because they saw this conspicuous bag left there. So they turned it into security without ever looking in the bag. Now, if they looked in the bag, it would be gone. Someone would have stolen all that art. It's $15,000 of original art. But because they thought it might have been a bomb, nobody bothered to look in the bag. They just sent it to security. Thank God. Now, security asked me, what's the contents? I told them. They go, yeah, that's easy. Everybody can say art. And I go, oh, wait, there were baby wipes in the front because we brought my daughter at the time for the first time to con. And it was the baby wipes that saved me. And they said, okay, the bag is yours. And they gave me the bag, and thank God everything was in there, which is kudos to security at New York Comic-Con, because anybody could have just taken a piece of art. So that was very stressful.
You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nashville Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, and our guest today is Phil Russertt.
Do you think that's your most memorable moment, or is this the craziest thing that has ever happened to you at Comic-Con?
It was both, just because it was so nerve-wracking and drove me nuts. I was so scared, and it was just an ordeal. But there are other great memorable moments, like getting my jam piece done. Geraldo Borges, he's Brazilian. He lives in Chile now. I met him for the first time, and Will Conrad, and they drew on my jams, and they've become very good friends of mine now, and they're just wonderful human beings. It's just really nice when, I know a lot of the big artists a lot of people are friendly to them because they want to get free art, or they want to be able to say, oh, look, I'm friends with this big name. But these just are genuine friendships that I built out of respect with them. So I have memorable moments of just meeting great people and having those relationships continue forward. To me, the relationships have been fantastic, and it's one of the best things about being part of this community.
True. You go to these conferences and you meet people of like mind, like interest, and you build lasting friendships that you can never replace. Like, where else can you find someone that is just as into comic books as you are? I mean, of course, you can go to your local, comic book store in the city near you, but to be amongst, thousands and thousands of people that's geeking out on the same things you are, it just takes it over the top.
Well, I agree. And especially when a lot of them, you're talking to people on a friendly basis that worked on comics that you grew up with loving. And I'm not a celebrity worshiper, but I do have a great admiration for people who have achieved certain levels in their given field. So sometimes it's kind of like, this is pretty cool. I'm good friends with this person, and I'm at this person's house hanging out with them, and they created this character, or they drew this book, or wrote this book.
Yeah, I felt that way when at the last Comic-Con, I was able to meet Todd McFarlane. It just blew me away. Honestly, that was a moment where, I was truly starstruck.
Well, he just transcends comics because he's into toys and movies. And I mean, that's a man that shows you, don't listen to the people who tell you what you should be doing or how to do it. He broke boundaries. He broke rules. He did his thing. And he worked hard, and he didn't care what people said, and look where he is.
Tell us a little bit about your adventures now. During the pandemic, a lot of us were going through a lot, and I know you personally were going through quite a lot, but you had something very positive come out of that.
Yeah, so I had gotten very, very sick. It could have been fatal, and my wife, my family, it was a very stressful ordeal. 6 weeks, I was bedridden. I was hospitalized for over a week, and it was very serious. I got home from the hospital. I was in bed. I was very weak. I'd lost about 60 pounds. I don't know. There's always this thing about me is why just sit here? I mean, I was tired and I was weak, but my mind was still sharp. Nobody was asking me to lift anything. It was just this vision of a character came in my head. It just popped in my head, and it was Tragedy, what she looks like. And I was like, this is interesting. And then another character popped in my head, and it was Breath of the Dragon, which is her adversary. He is not a villain, but he is an adversary. I was like, all right, what is this? Now, forgive me if I'm digressing a bit, but my entire life I was very frustrated because I always felt like I hadn't reached my potential. I was always a good on-the-fly storyteller. Like, I used to babysit kids when I was younger, and I made up stories on the go right there from out of my head that they kind of interacted with, and they loved it. And I just felt like I was a musician, but I was a drummer, so I didn't really create a lot of my own music, etc. So I just felt like there was this creative part of me that was locked up, and it was very frustrating for me. So I'm laying here in bed, and I have these two characters, and I go, this is the time to do it. It looks like I'm going to recover. It was still, not guaranteed, but it looked like I was going to recover. I felt strong enough. I said, I'm just doing this. And I wrote 13 issues of Tragedy while laying in bed. I got it. Started it into production, and literally from zero to completion in 4 months, it was in everybody's hands and published.
That is a crazy accomplishment. To see you do that so quickly and so well, bravo.
Larry Stroman was on the phone with me yesterday, and he goes, and I forgot his exact words, I'm going to paraphrase, but he basically said I was crazy, and he never saw anybody put out a book in 4 months like that. And it was a quality book. And to hear, a legend like Larry Stroman say that is very humbling. I promise you, those aren't my words, and it doesn't go to my head at all, because I know my station in life at this point, and I accept it, and I'm fine with it. I'm not a big name or anything. But when you hear that from people like that, or a really well-known writer and editor that created characters for Marvel told me the story was solid and the writing was good, it doesn't make me feel like I'm great. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right and I'm on the right path. And I'm glad that because, art and aesthetics, you can always fix, but if I can't write, I can't write. Writing is a very hard skill that you don't just learn it and you're good at it. You know what I mean? I mean, art is hard as well, but you can keep drawing every day. If you don't have the gift of writing, you just don't have the gift of writing. So I'm so grateful that people have received it well, like yourself. And just that you're supporting, and the kind words and the encouragement They just make me feel like I'm doing something right, and it's for a reason,
And comic book writing is also it's very specific.
Well, when I wrote the script, I was told that it was written in a way where when people read it, they felt like they were watching a Netflix TV show, and they compared it to like the Daredevil TV show. They felt that the choreography, the way I described it in the fight scenes in the script was really vivid, and they could picture it in their head, which was great to hear. My favorite writer in comics has always been Chris Claremont. His run on the X-Men, 17 years, was phenomenal. His world building with them was phenomenal. A lot of people say the problem with him is he built up all these plots and then he wouldn't solve them, which I understand the frustration. I actually had two people tell me they could see without knowing that he was my influence, which was wow. I mean, and they said because they could tell when I wrote the book, I wrote it for long term. It's a long term game. I was setting up plot lines, setting up characterization. There was no boring exposition. It all meant something. But what I think I do is in the first issue, 5-issue story arc, I do close some plot lines as I open new ones, so the reader doesn't get frustrated as to there's 6 million plot lines open. Let's get some answers here. So yeah, a lot of people say I wrote the script more like a novel than a comic script, but in a screenplay form. So it's kind of like a mix of screenplay and novel.
You're listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Phil Russertt, artist, agent, and legendary illustrator, founder of the Suffolk. Let me take that from the top.
No worries.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Phil Russertt, artist, agent at Legendary Illustrations, founder of the Suffolk Comic and Art Expo and CreatorCon, and creator of the independent comic sensation Tragedy. My name is Donyshia Boston Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Now, getting back to Tragedy. So you get started and you write this, as you said, you weren't feeling well, but your mind was sharp. You were able to do this. So take us to that point now where you wrote the script. All right. So now how are you getting this out there and in front of artists, and then getting this out to actually a finished product so quickly?
Well, being an artist representative and agent, I represent a lot of great talent. And one of the artists I represent is Ricardo Silva. He lives in Brazil. And I just love his line work. He's just a beautiful illustrator. And he's a wonderful human being. And I asked him, I said, listen, I'll pay you your page rate. I don't need breaks as your art agent. I just want a great product. And I sent him the script and I told him about it. And he said, oh, I'm in. And he actually turned down work for a good publisher because he wants to do Tragedy because he thinks it's going to go somewhere. I told him he's crazy. I said, you need to take the job. And he's like, no, I believe in what you're doing. I want to be the artist on the ground floor. So I really hope I don't let him down. And then I represent a letterer, Jason Meadows, and a colorist, Sigmund Torrey. So I just approached them because I already represent them. I paid them their regular rates, and I had my creative team, which was fantastic, which helped make it quicker because I already knew that their styles would match what I was looking for. So that really wasn't an issue at all. And they were sold on the script and the characters, and there we go. We just started working. Ricardo does the pencils and the inks too. So
yeah, it's really some fantastic work. The quality of the book. It can't really be understated. For a debut book that just kind of came out of, literally for a comic fan, it came out of nowhere. Following you on Facebook and following you on social media, you saw it coming, but wow. So what's the next steps with the book?
Well, I literally launched issue 1 on Indiegogo's platform tomorrow night, Thursday, the 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The reason is, there are people that are passionate about which platform they support. And I'm not here to question that. Everybody has their passions, their beliefs, and God bless them for standing for what they believe in. So I just want to go to both platforms to reach the largest audience possible. So that will launch tomorrow. If you missed the Kickstarter, not all of the covers, because there are a lot, will be on the Indiegogo, but the higher selling covers, the more interesting covers to people based on the public will be there, and a few new covers. And one is exclusive to Indiegogo to be the only place you can get it. And we're going to do a live stream with my CreatorCon Q&A launch party at 7 p.m. with some of the artists like Ricardo and Chris Graves, who did a great cover, and I represent him. And hopefully, you know, we'll have some fun. And all the money, and you have my word, that I make goes back into the comic. I mean, even if there's a surplus of money, I will throw it into issue 3 or issue 4. It's not taking me to dinner. It's not me buying toys. It's not me getting a car. You know, I promise you, every dime is invested back into the book to give you the best book possible. So, and then issue 2 just started being drawn and produced. Ricardo gave me page 1 yesterday. I did the edits. Again, he's just doing beautiful work. And we hope to have the Kickstarter for issue 2 around October. And as I did with the first one, fulfillment will be as fast as possible. I mean, literally, everyone received their books within 3 weeks of the end of the Kickstarter with no snags. So I don't believe in making people wait. I like to get the book done before we launch the campaign, because if you're going to spend your hard-earned money on me, you should not have to wait months to get it. And that's not knocking people that go that route, because not everybody has the money to fund the book right away or whatever. So, but the Indiegogo is to help me get the rest of the money I need to fund book 2, because the money goes fast with printing and Kickstarter fees and cover artists and you name it.
Now, is there for you, getting back to just the love of the books and you know, the love of comics, is there a book to you that's like, well, that's the Holy Grail comic book. I want to one day get that book?
You know, I was never a Holy Grail guy, but the one book two books I would always want, I have one of them at a high grade, thank God, is Giant Size X-Men #1. It's the first appearance of my 2 favorite characters, Nightcrawler and Colossus, and X-Men #1. And I had a chance to get an X-Men #1 for $75 in the 90s. And I mean, if you would have graded, it would probably be a 1.5. But $75 to me at that time, working for like $5 an hour, might as well have been a couple thousand. And I didn't get it. And I so wish I did, because now a 1.5 is thousands of dollars. I could have had a #1 someday.
Someday, exactly. You know, you can't kick yourself, can't go backwards.
Agreed.
And what's next? What's next for you and your team with regards to the convention circuit?
Well, because of the current climate, I want to start out slow, because as you know, you invest a lot of time and money as a show promoter. Shows don't, they cost a lot to run. Otherwise, everybody would be doing them. So I'm not doing a vendor-heavy show, a lot of comic vendors. I have one local comic store that's going to be there, and I have an art dealer, Anthony's Comic Book Art, which will sell published pages, original published pages from hundreds and thousands of different comic books by big names. It's an art show. It's for artists and art and the appreciation of the aesthetics of comics. So August 28th, I have a one-day show. It's 10 to 5. And it's $5 cash at the door only. If you come, and 9 o'clock entry is $8 cash as an early bird. And we're going to do portfolio reviews for people who really want to break into the industry. And you get a full 10-minute portfolio review with 30-year veterans like Scott Hanna, Keith Williams. And then we, of course, have inker Tony Cordos from DC. If you're an inker and you want to get some inking tips and inking portfolio reviews, him and Keith will do that. And Scott is an inker. We have Larry Stroman coming. We have Sean Chen coming. We have Koi Pham coming. Rodney Ramos is coming. We have some great names coming. A lot of local artists. There's going to be about 35 artists there. Again, it's $5 cash at the door. We are going to have sanitization stations. We're going to ask that if you're not vaccinated, you wear your mask. We have staff that will be wiping down all surfaces throughout the day, door handles, etc., so that, there's no. The reason why we're doing cash only is so we're not handing cards back and forth at the door, trying to make things safer. And it's an open floor concept in that the room there are no aisles. The tables will outline the room, so the whole middle is open, so you can socially distance if you feel the need. So if you're still a little nervous or concerned, you have those options to social distance, not be on top of people. And if you're not worried about it, we still have precautions in place. We will be taking your temperature just when you come and asking you to fill out a quick survey that you don't have any symptoms, etc. It really is just for everybody's safety. And of course, we don't want anybody to get sick. I would never want anybody to be hurt in any way. So, but it's going to be a fun show. And if you ask anybody who's been at prior shows, my artist alleys are crazy. They're awesome. You can get anything from sketch covers done to commissions, 9x12, 11x17, to bring your own sketchbook, or buy some original published art. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us and being our guest today. I'd like to leave you with DB's philosophy. You are going to make a difference. A lot of times it won't be huge. It won't even be visible, but it will matter just the same. Commissioner Gordon, Batman.
Yeah, I had to throw a Batman quote in there. Phil, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Well, we're excited. We can't wait to see for the future of your creators, for your conventions, and for Tragedy. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston Hill, your co-host and producers. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. We're available on Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and podcasts on iTunes and podcasts on Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the National Community College Foundation on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.